Alright, we gotta talk about inflation, which is CPI report. Okay, chances are you're probably gonna be watching this right before the inflation report drops later on, or after, I don't know. Okay, this is kind of like an expectation video of what you should kind of expect for the CPI later on. Okay, just watch this before the 10th of May, and then you should be fine. You can kind of just see my expectation for what I actually think would most likely be happening. First of all, let's talk about consensus on the street. Right now, people are expecting it to be about 0.3% to 0.5% increase month over month, with the Cleveland Feds expecting it to go all the way to 0.5% month over month. Personally, I do think that it's going to be somewhere in the 0.4% month over month. But I do think that the consensus will want to see tightly around 0.3%. Okay, so let's talk about how this would actually play out. What are the main contributing factor to this current CPI factors? Okay, first of all, I would think the gas prices will definitely not be a huge factor anymore, because I think inflation as a whole right now is starting to move away. Okay, people are not really talking about inflation as much, simply because we are starting to find the norm of it, and also how inflation is a year over year indicator. We have already finished the whole entire year of inflation right now. We are already stuck at high prices. It's kind of setting in with us where we are supposed to just settle for these higher prices. Prices are not going to be going down anytime soon, simply because if you're looking at wages keeps on going up. Employment is not really going down, which means the wages is going up, employment is going up. Prices in general are gonna stay up and not just have a sudden decrease or a sudden massive deflation bubble coming. Those are not coming anytime soon. Okay, so if that were to be the case, that means that inflation as a whole is kind of just not really just kick the can down the road, it's kick the can to the point where we cannot even see the can anymore. We need to wait till the can show up like 30 kilometers down the road. Because right now we're just expecting that this will most likely be an issue maybe in 10 more years or so. Okay, that's kind of how crazy this whole entire thing was. Because just 5 months ago, we're just hammering on the fact that inflation is killing everyone. Right now, everyone is basically settling for it. So let's talk about wages. Wages is still going up, and at the same time, employment rate is also going up. So what does this actually tell you? It's true that some people would kind of forced to actually get a job, but at the same time, I do believe that a lot of people are also forced to get a second job. Because with all these prices continuously going up, your one person wage is not really enough for you to actually settle for your food, for your services, for your petrol, for your gasoline, for example, for some of you out there, for cars, purchase for the house, shelter, things like that. All these are all going to be going upwards in the CPI report as well. So I do think that wages as a whole, this is still a huge. Personally, I do think this is a huge issue. But of course, I think to the government themselves, to the Feds themselves, they don't really care because they're just looking at numbers. Okay, if we're looking straight at numbers itself, things are working out. Okay, employment is up, wages are up. Hey, that's kind of what they're looking for. Okay, but anyway, let's not stray too far away. Let's get back to the CPI report. Okay, most likely what's going to be happening. Oil prices is not going to be going up simply because you have been seeing the WTI, the Brent prices actually going downwards at about $60 a barrel, $60 to $70 a barrel. So I'm pretty sure that was the last time I checked. It was about that price. So I believe that that's going to be pressed down quite significantly as compared to like the $80 per barrel from last month. Okay, oil prices definitely going to be going down. Used car prices, which was once a huge issue back in 2021 and 2022, when that basically started the whole entire inflation situation, where people couldn't buy new cars, so they had to settle for used cars, and used cars kept on increasing in price, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I do think that used car prices are definitely going to be starting to trend downwards. Yes, already been trending downwards, and I do think that this is going to continue with the trend. Thirdly, food prices. Just last month, we finally had the first month of CPI where we actually saw a zero inflation in food inflation. This has actually never happened before in the past 2-3 years. Ever since this hyperinflated economy started, we have not seen food prices go down even a little bit. Last month, we finally start to see a little bit of an inflection point downwards. So of course, hopefully this month we are hoping to see a inflation downwards even more. Okay, so that means that we want to see food inflation actually going down 0.2% month over month. That would be for the best. Otherwise, if we do see an increase of like what 0.4%, 0.3% again, that means that the food inflation is again just not really anchored, and that's going to be that's going to be a huge situation again, because that means that food prices will continue to go up, and usually that trickles down to the working class people and also the lower class people that have to bear the brunt of it, because they are the one that largely rely on cheaper food prices. So with this being out of the way, it means that inflation as a whole, we don't really see huge inflationary pressure anymore. Not as what we actually saw back in 2022, 2021, where we were, say, energy prices, back in 2022, where we had the whole Russia-Ukraine situation. There was such a huge thing where energy prices basically was the core contributor of inflation. Of course, that's not going to be like 2022 or 2021, where we had the used car prices and used truck prices actually being the core contributor of inflation going all the way up either. Okay. However, I do think that we are still gonna have one more issue, which is shelter prices, because shelter prices, like I explained before, it comes with a lag, and usually the lag goes for like 9 to 12 months. Okay. Right now we are still about like another 10 more months, or no, about 8 more months or so, before we actually see the shelter prices significantly go downwards. The reason why there's such a huge lag in shelter prices as a whole is because rental prices, or well, rental in general, are being signed year over year, or 2 years in a row, or 3 years in a row, that sort of thing. And usually what happens is that for you to actually see a significant decrease in rental pricing, you have to wait for the whole entire lease to be over, and then you re-sign the lease, and then you can kind of see the prices of those leases. Okay, if those leases are not actually being re-signed, then you cannot really expect any sort of increase or decrease in price, which is why most of the time you're gonna see prices just continue to go up. But of course, you must expect a lag to be coming, and then in the next 9 to 12 months, then you can start to see it go trend all the way down again. Right now, we're expecting another 8 more months before we actually see significant drop in shelter prices. Hopefully so, that to be the case. And then again, when that actually comes, then your whole year over year inflation data is going to be completely flipped over as well. The whole script is going to be flipped. Chances are we would most likely be at about 3% back then, in that future. So shelter prices actually dropping down would actually secure the 2% over the long term, according to Jerome Powell. Not sure if that's going to be the case, but chances are that's going to be the case. Now, we have to talk about how this would actually affect normal people like you and I. Normal people like you and I, inflation is still going to be affecting us, okay? I think that's quite evident. Prices of food is going up, prices of gasoline is going up, prices of cars are going up, prices of housing is going up, prices of our clothes are also going up. So if everything is just going up in price, it's quite clear, it's clear as the day that it's going to be affecting us. But why do they think that, having inflation drop down to 2% year over year would actually calm us down? Because for a lot of us, we don't actually think in that perspective. Just getting back to 2% inflation year over year, all it takes is to have 1 year of just flat inflation, and you're kind of back to 0% inflation again. Just how year over year inflation works is just in the past 12 months. Okay, so you just have to get 1 year of flat inflation and you're pretty good to go. Okay, but right now the issue is inflation is so damn sticky. Whatever that cost you $1 3 years ago costs you probably about $2 today. Okay, so for you to now get back to the $1 or at least $1.20 or $1.50 range again, what you are kind of expecting is you need to see a deflation going on, not just a disinflation. You need to see a deflation going, and that's not happening right now. Right now, the best deal that we can even cut out for is a disinflation deal. Okay, a disinflation for us to actually bring it down. Previously, we had 9% year-over-year inflation. Right now, we are at previously we are at 6%. Right now, we're most likely going to be at about 5%. In about 3 to 4 more months, we're expecting it to go down significantly to about 3.5% year-over-year. Okay, but even then, it is still an increase of 3.5% year over year. Whatever that happened in 2021 and 2022 is still there. We are just increasing even more from there on out, which is why this is insane. For us to actually even get rid of all this chunk of inflation that we had back in 2021 and 2022, the only way for us to do so is to see severe deflation happening in 2023 and 2024. Chances are that's not going to happen because why? According to Elizabeth Warren, they are saying that a lot of different corporations out there are actually price gouging because they are raising price when they can. And honestly speaking, she's right. And honestly speaking, the corporations are not wrong because when you can increase prices, you should. So you put yourself in those corporations' shoes. For example, when they want to increase price, they want to increase margins, they are not able to do so because pricing are always so competitive at that timing. For example, right now, pricing as a whole is not really competitive because everybody wants to raise price. So for example, if my competitors in my business, all of them are increasing their price by 20%, me increasing by 15% doesn't really sound absurd. If anything, I'm just kind of just recalibrating my price according to the social norms, the industry standards, for example. Okay, so it doesn't really make zero sense for us to be increasing prices. And when that actually happens, what this would actually create is for my suppliers or the people that I'm working with to increase prices on me as well, because that's how we everyone in the industry grow as it is. And of course, end of the day, what actually happens is that the full brunt of it have to be taken by the consumer themselves. But it's the same thing, because if the consumer is someone who also conduct business, they're going to be earning a little bit more as well. That's how you actually grow as a whole country. So I don't think that price gouging being affected by all corporation is absolutely a bad thing, not 100%, but I do see how that is a huge problem for the lower income earners and also the middle class people. The working class people. So I don't think that this whole entire inflation situation, until we actually see deflation coming in, it's gonna be a very, very tough ride. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Right now, back to the CPI again. I do think that we are most likely going to be seeing a 0.4% month-of-month increase. If we do see anything upwards of 0.5% and above, I can assure you futures are not going to be looking good. Pre-market, your SPY and your Qs are definitely going to be dropping at about a 1% or so if we actually see 0.5% somewhere along those lines. Of course, if we were to see somewhere in the 0.2% and even lower, chances are we would also not really see much of a huge jumping action, simply because it also creates the fact that not really the facade or anything, but it just creates this kind of image that the Feds are actually doing really well, and there is a good chance that they might even increase the rates yet again. I think that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.